I did an experiment on myself. I'm going to tell you what I did, why I did it, and how you can do it too if you want. First, welcome to the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. My name is Esther, and I am a registered nurse. I have been gluten-free for about 11 years, and the experiment I did was to see if I could tolerate heritage wheat that was freshly milled and sourdough. I want to tell you why each of those things matter. But first, so we've talked about gluten-free before. I've shared with you, if you've listened to a bunch of episodes, this statistic from Dr. Isabella Wentz. She is a thyroid pharmacist. She did a study once and found about 80% of people who have Hashimoto's are better off gluten-free. But how do you know if you're in that 80%? You have to try it. There's no test to say you are in the 80% or you're not. You're in that 20% who can tolerate it. So I went gluten-free actually because my infant at the time was covered head to toe with eczema. Now, eczema is usually something that's related to an allergy, and it's a gut condition. He was only a couple weeks old at the time, maybe a couple months, and so I knew it was from something that I was eating or something in our environment because he was exclusively breastfed, and we were at home. This was 11 years ago. I was still on maternity leave. I knew that whatever was causing his eczema, I was directly responsible for, either from my diet or from, the detergent or the smells or things in our house. So I went on a quest at that time to heal his eczema. And part of that was going on a huge elimination diet. His eczema was so bad. I had to put socks on his hands to keep him from scratching himself bloody every day. It was head to toe. Like his forehead was just a patch of red, inflamed, itchy, nasty skin. And it was on his chest, his back, his belly, like all the way down to his toes. I felt so bad. And of course, as a mom, you'll do anything. I wouldn't do it for myself. I'm not going to go gluten-free for myself. But for my child, I would do this huge elimination diet. So I did it. And we isolated that for him, it was actually coconut. Now, coconut happens to be in a lot of things that used to have hydrogenated oils in them because coconut is solid at less than 74 degrees, I think. So they use coconut in a lot of things, and a lot of soaps have coconut to create the suds. It was definitely a process to get to that point because obviously you try the big things first. You try the gluten and the dairy. One of my kids had been really sensitive to anything that I ate that had tomatoes in it. So, you try the obvious things. Coconut was way down the line. It took a long time to get there. And so in that process, we found out that my son could tolerate gluten, but I couldn't. And so I was mostly gluten-free for about the next 5 years. For me at that time, I realized that gluten, number one, it increased my migraines. Like it lowered the migraine threshold. So it took less to trigger a migraine. That was the biggest thing that I remember noticing. Now, I'm going to interrupt myself to tell you, please write down your symptoms. You think that you will always remember what's going on. You think that you will always remember how bad you feel or how bad something makes you feel. And that's false. Our brains want to forget it. And so write down your symptoms. One of my clients a while back, she came to me because she was like trapped in her house. She had to be so close to a bathroom. She told me that she couldn't go anywhere. And if she did, she had to make sure she knew where all of the bathrooms on the road were, like any place that she could stop to quickly use the bathroom. And she had to know where the bathrooms were in the place where she was going. It was torture for her. After we worked together for a while, I reminded her of that because she had just told me she had gone somewhere. She's like, oh my goodness, I totally forgot about that. Please write down your symptoms because at this point, I cannot tell you exactly what gluten did to me when I had that elimination diet and brought it back in. I do remember that it lowered my migraine threshold, but I don't remember the other things. So I was mostly gluten-free for the next 5-ish years. Every year during birthday season, I would have some birthday cake and have gluten at that time. And I know that gluten is an all or nothing thing. So when I was gluten-free, I was 100% gluten-free. And then during birthday season, which in our family is 4 birthdays within 30 days. So during those 30 days, I would eat, quote, normal. And then at the end of birthday season, I would go back to being gluten-free again. That is how I worked it for me. And it seemed to be okay. I did notice that, every time I had gluten, it was a little more unmanageable. I had more symptoms. Again, write down your symptoms. Because I remember noting that, but I don't remember noting all of my symptoms. So fast forward to COVID. And of course, during COVID, everybody was in their homes, and then people started doing sourdough. So I learned that when you are doing sourdough, there's this long ferment, and it changes the wheat, it changes the gluten. And some people who are sensitive to gluten can have sourdough bread. And so, of course, I tried it. I'm always willing to experiment on myself. And I missed real bread. If you've had gluten-free bread, which I'm sure you have, you know that it's not the same. It's just not. There are some that are better than others. There are some that are really, really bad. But there's nothing quite like a nice gluten sandwich bread, right? So I tried sourdough. And I remember I was so excited, and I worked really hard to make sure that I wasn't going to have a placebo effect, trying not to sway my thoughts one way or the other. So excited. I prepared the sourdough. I worked on it really hard. I made that batch. I ate it, and I was flat on my bed, not in pain. I remember I ate the sourdough for lunch. And I remember laying down that afternoon, and I was so depressed, and I was just confused. I had this moment of clarity where I was reflecting on what I was feeling, kind of outside myself, observing my emotions and observing what was going on. And I was trying to figure out, why am I so down? All of a sudden this afternoon, I just feel like I'm worthless. Life is just no good. Why am I even here? All of these crazy thoughts, just super depressive. I wasn't in pain, but I was super depressed. And that is not normal for me. I am not a depressed person. I do not struggle with depression. This last winter, when my TSH was going up, my thyroid was not doing awesome. I noticed that my mood was flattening a little bit. But even at that time, I was not depressed. I was a little bit more flat, which I told my nurse practitioner, and we got me on some Synthroid after checking my labs. But that is usually I'm totally fine. And at my worst, I have some flattened mood. So this day, when I tried that sourdough and had so crazy out of the blue depression and down thoughts, I suddenly realized it's the gluten. That's the only thing that changed. I had gluten for lunch, or wheat or whatever. I had that sourdough bread, and it was delicious, but all of a sudden, I am not myself. And so I went for a walk. I was trying to figure out, okay, so I need fresh air. I need sunlight. I need to boost my mood. I need to be outside. I need to move, get my body, processing anything that I ate, because I want it to be used up. I don't know how, that scientifically works. I was just trying to figure out anything that I could do to make myself feel better. So I went on a long walk. I think it was 2 hours that day. I didn't feel like I could go outside and walk, but in that moment of clarity, when I realized that the depression was directly related to what I ate, I was like, okay, I have to go outside in the sun, in the natural air, and get some exercise. I will feel better. And so I did. That was the last time I ate gluten for the next 5 years. Fast forward to about the middle of last month, and I was listening to a podcast. It's called The Culture Apothecary. I listened to quite a few of her episodes. They're pretty lengthy, and so I pick and choose. And this one, it caught my attention because they were talking about thyroid, or they mentioned that both of them had Hashimoto's, the host and the guest, and they were talking about eating gluten and having freshly milled flour. I was very intrigued. So I listened to the show, and I'll try to put the show notes or the link down in the show notes. If you look for Culture Apothecary and then you look for bread or flour, you will find it. It is an interview with Sue Becker, who is the host of Becker's Bread, I think, or Bread Becker. There's a huge YouTube channel, and she has has a podcast herself. This interview was talking about the process that wheat has gone through. So wheat itself is different today than it was 100 or 200 years ago. In the pre-1950s, the wheat was different, and there have been a lot of changes since that time. I don't know about before that time, but especially since the 1950s, there was a lot of different plant breeding, as well as GMO stuff, as well as pesticides and herbicides like Roundup. There's a lot of stuff going on in our actual wheat. And then when you go beyond the wheat itself to the milling of it, turning that wheat into flour, then there's even more stuff that I had no idea. When they started doing industrial milling of wheat and packaging up and selling it as white flour or even whole wheat flour, they took out the nutrients, because it's the nutrients, it's the germ and the endosperm that cause the wheat to spoil. So they took out the things that cause it to spoil, but they also took out a lot of the good stuff, like the B vitamins and some minerals and some antioxidants. And there was a rash of problems in the US, probably other countries too, but they were having all these health problems. And that's when researchers and scientists, doctors, whoever, discovered that, oh my goodness, we have to put these back in. According to Sue, I have not read all of the research on this, but she's a food scientist, so she said that according to what she has learned, that at that time they talked to the mills and they said, you have to put these back in. And the mill is like, yeah, no, we're already reselling all of that stuff. We're selling it to the animal food companies. So we're not going to stop selling it, but we will enrich the flour. And that is why we have enriched flour, because the government wanted the B vitamins and things put back in our flour so that they could get rid of the diseases that were now running rampant after the freshly milled flour went away and people had store-bought flour. This all is what I'm getting from Sue Becker from this interview. I have not fact-checked it, but she has been doing this for years and years. I trust what she says, but you can go listen to it and you can fact-check it. So my point is, I'm listening to this interview and I'm very curious because she said, when you have freshly milled flour, a lot of people can tolerate it, even if they were not able to tolerate gluten before. It's actually not the gluten itself that they are intolerant to, but it's the processed wheat. And I was like, oh, I wonder. So I, of course, jumped online. One of my Instagram friends had been posting that she gets her wheat, she gets heritage wheat, so pre-1950s, from a mill that's like an hour and a half away from me. It's called Sunrise Flour Mill. They do ship all over the country, so if you want to go there, Sunrise Flour Mill. And so I went to Sunrise Flour Mill on the internet, and I got some of their pancake mix, some of their pre-milled wheat, because let's be honest, I am not going to mill things myself every time I need flour. Now, Sue Becker, I did go to her YouTube channel, and she just keeps her flour mill on the counter. She's got an electric one. She puts in the wheat berries in the top, turns it on, and then puts the wheat berries in, and then out comes this freshly milled flour right into her, like what she's baking. Super easy. I don't have an electric mill, and I know that I'm not going to go over to my mom and dad's. My mom has a mill. It's a manual mill, and I'm just not going to go over there every time I need to make something. So I bought some already ground flour, and then I also bought some wheat berries so that I could make my freshly milled stuff. I also bought one of their sourdough starters. They have a sourdough that is over 100 years old. It's from Italy. I was like, yes, I don't want to deal with starting my own sourdough this time. I would rather start from an established batch. So that brings me up to last week, and we got it in the mail. Super exciting. If you watch my Instagram stories, I am health.with.hashimoto's. You saw that I got my package and then I started the sourdough. I had to, hydrate it and start feeding it. And by the weekend, we were ready to make our bread. I say we because my 11-year-old was on this journey with me. He was going to make the bread with me. So we scheduled our time to go over to my mom and dad's and mill the wheat. I thought it was going to be easy. Let me tell you, it was not. He has a manual mill. My dad bought my mom a manual mill, and it was a lot of work. So my 11-year-old and I, we had a morning workout for sure. We ground wheat manually for about 2.5 hours. It was kind of fun to start, go from these wheat berries and see the flour come out. It was a little bit coarse, so then we did a second grind to make it finer, and we ended up with enough flour that we came home and we made sourdough bread. Because it took so long to mill, I wasn't ready to bake it until Sunday morning. I put it in the fridge for Saturday, and then I put it in the oven on Sunday morning before we left for church. And then I tried it for lunch, and it was really good. I had gluten, flour, heritage wheat sourdough for the first time. Well, first time ever, because I don't think I've ever had the heritage or the heritage sourdough, like all those combinations. But for the first time in 5 years, I ate gluten, and I was nervously optimistic. I had been reading so many different testimonials of, I can't do normal flour, but I can eat this. And I can't have gluten, but I can eat this. Like, I wanted to prepare my mind so that I didn't have a placebo effect of having a negative, reaction. I was kind of worried about that. I did not want a placebo effect. So I was listening to all of these testimonials and reading them, and I tried it. And I want you to try it too. Like, if you have been gluten-free and you know that that helps you and you're willing to go through this work, why not try it? That was my thought. Like, why not? If I find something that is healthier for myself and healthier for my family, it's got all of the nutrients right in it. My family gets all of the correct form, the bioavailable forms of the B vitamins. I get all of the antioxidants, the fiber. We have fresh food. We have, no more bleached flour. If you've been through the Hashimoto's decoded root causes, you've heard me talk about that one of the root causes and one of the triggers of Hashimoto's can be in the periodic table of elements. It's related to iodine. It's the bleaching of our flour using bromine and bromide process. So if I can do this to help my family, then why not? That was my thought. And I invite you to do this experiment on yourself. Why not? Maybe it will be healthier. Maybe it will work for you. But again, log all your symptoms. So did it work for me? Am I able to have gluten again as long as I do heritage wheat and freshly milled and sourdough? No. I had a bit of, I definitely felt more inflamed a couple hours after eating it. I had a low-grade headache. It wasn't a migraine, and I didn't have depression like the last time, but I just felt thicker. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I felt like my head was heavier and thicker. I felt that low grade, maybe like a 1 or 2 on the pain scale of a dull headache. And I was like, this is probably my body saying it's not worth it. But I know that, gluten, it's an all or nothing thing. So I'm finishing the loaf of bread, like 1 slice a day or maybe 2. I'm not overdoing it for sure. I don't want to binge on gluten, but at the same time, I know that I had it and I might as well enjoy it because it's not causing severe symptoms right now. So there is something for my body about having that heritage wheat and sourdough that it doesn't have as drastic of a reaction for me as other stuff. So why did I do it? Because I wanted to experiment on myself. I'm not going to know unless I try it. What works for somebody else might not work for you. You see the ads, you see what people say online, on social media, like this works for me, you have to try this. I know this is going to work for you. Well, you're an individual. What works for your friend might not work for you. What works for your friend might work for you. The only way to know is to try it. Now, there are some things that research tells us work for 100% of people. When you do the research and it says 100% of mammals react in this way, okay, then you know that will work for you. You don't know what the effects are going to be of how it works, but okay, if it works for 100% of mammals and you're a mammal, then it's going to work for you. But you are unique. You are individual. So why not try it? Now, maybe the why nots are big. Maybe you don't have time to do sourdough, or you don't have time or a mill or access to, make freshly milled flour. I get it. But if you can, like, that's my philosophy. Why not try? Now, this is with the caveat of know your own triggers. Know your root causes, know your triggers, know what you have time and space for. Don't stress yourself out about trying something new or restricting something. Know yourself, know your body, know your journey, know your root causes, know your situation in life so that you can figure out, okay, maybe this will work. Maybe it won't, maybe it will, but you'll never know if you try. So that is my experience with trying gluten again, trying freshly milled flour. I would love to hear your stories. What have you tried? What have you done an experiment on yourself and figured out, oh, this does work for me, this doesn't work for me? Share your stories. Come over to our community, our Health with Hashimoto's community over on school.com and share your stories. I'd love to hear your story of what worked, what didn't, what are you learning about yourself? How are you helping yourself on this journey to have better health with Hashimoto's? I look forward to hearing your story, and I will see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any concerns and plans with your trusted healthcare professional. If you found this episode helpful, will you please share it with a friend? I'll see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.